Hi, this is Vaughn Upshaw, and I'm going to do an overview of what we're going to be talking about in week 9 of the integrated learning experience. In this class, we are now up to what is called the RACI analysis, which is an assessed part of the ILE, and you will complete your RACI both as a group, but then write it up individually. What we've done in this class is to have you define a social determinant of health, and then you just have described the system that contributes to that. You've begun looking at the stakeholders within a subsystem who are affected and or who affect that social determinant of health. So now we're getting ready to turn and look at what are the things that we would like to see happening within that system in order to make improvements in that social determinant. We're going to talk about who contributes to making those things happen and in what ways, and think about which stakeholders are responsible and accountable for making those changes. In this overview, I'm going to talk a little bit about the theory of integrated systems, what the functions are within integrated systems, and focus in particular on the governance of an integrated system. I'm going to give you a case example in which we mapped stakeholders for the Triple P or Positive Parenting Program in the state of North Carolina, and then help set up a governing system for that Triple P program. As we close, I'm going to outline what you will do to practice using these tools as you set priorities for your social determinant of health, conduct a RACI analysis, thinking about the different stakeholders who are engaged in the system, and then consider how they will be participating in an ACC or accountable care community that can affect your social determinant of health. So let's start with the theory. In 791, we talked about collective impact, and we talked about the way in which a backbone organization would have a steering committee that would work with a variety of different groups and partners across a community in order to align actions and create a strategic change in something that was important at the community level. In effect, that's exactly the same thing we're talking about when we're talking about an integrated systems theory. In an integrated system, there is a governing or decision-making body that has a support structure or support system that provides training and information based on what the governing system requires, and then supports the frontline or delivery system. In an integrated system, each of these levels performs a different function that is essential and interdependent to the other parts of the system. The governing system provides overall accountability, makes decisions and sets direction, communicates the purpose of the system overall, and sets standards for what quality it will be, what metrics are going to be used to evaluate, oversight, and provide monitoring. The support system is the system that makes sure people are trained, that they have the methods and tools that they need. If there's mentoring, teaching, coaching, or other kinds of systems that are needed to assure quality, that those are all in place. The delivery system actually provides the services. They monitor what happens on the ground, they provide data and information on quality, and they help manage those frontline relationships. We're going to focus, as we think about creating an ACC or accountable care community, on the governing component of an integrated system. The functions of a governing system are to think about what is the program here? What kind of strategy and design are we going to use? That will then determine what kind of resources are needed. Those resources will then affect what can be implemented, and what can be implemented You will know whether it's making a difference by evaluating and monitoring those activities, which then takes you back into thinking about what do we need to do to improve and enhance the system. That integrated system interacts in a variety of different ways. At the governing level, it is providing resources and direction to the support system, which the support system uses to design training, information, quality metrics, which then are taken down to the delivery system. The governing system also sends resources and requests for information directly to the delivery system, which then provides data back up to the support system or reports directly back to the governing system. This integrated system theory is really what we're talking about when we're beginning to set up an accountable care community and thinking about how it can perform to oversee and improve social determinants of health at the local level. So take a minute and think, how does this theory of integrated systems apply to your group's social determinant of health? What governing functions would an ACC perform if it was going to affect the social determinant in your group's chosen issue? Now let's take a look at a case example. Rohit Ramaswamy and I worked a few years ago with an integrated group of partners from across the state of North Carolina, as well as international pr- practitioners of Triple P, which is the positive parenting program, the national office, and a variety of different state and local public and private partners. We helped them map what was going on, being clear about who the stakeholders were, and use a RACI analysis to help them figure out who was really accountable and responsible for governing the Triple P system in the state. We began by helping them develop a root definition, and they said that the Triple P system in North Carolina is a system to develop and champion strategies, allocate resources, and assure accountability for outcomes statewide by engaging public and private partners who are responsible for supporting, delivering, expanding, improving, and sustaining Triple P in order to foster strong and healthy families in North Carolina. When we mapped the Triple P system, we had a variety of different actors. At the bottom, the blue dots represent state agencies. In the middle, you have academic and nonprofit organizations. In the red and yellow, you have organizations at the local level. And at the very top, all of those are serving the orange, which is the family and children who are affected by challenges with parenting that can lead to adverse childhood experiences. From that root definition, there were a series of actions or goals for the governing system to accomplish. Those were to develop and champion the strategies, allocate the resources, and assure accountability for those outcomes across the state. To figure out who was responsible and accountable for those core functions, we used a RACI analysis. A RACI analysis looks at who is responsible, accountable, supportive, consulted, and informed in order to accomplish a set of priorities or key goals. Those who are responsible actually carry out the work. And in this example, we look at who was responsible for developing strategies, who was responsible for championing those strategies, who's responsible for guiding the use of resources, and who's responsible for assuring accountability for the outcomes. The responsibility largely fell to Department of Public Health, Department of Social Services, foundations, nonprofit organizations, departments of juvenile justice, and departments of mental health at the state level. In addition, these organizations were often seen as accountable for those activities as well. They both had the individuals who had to oversee and administer, as well as those who would, if the programs didn't work, be held responsible. At the supporting level, there were organizations such as academic institutions, nonprofit organizations that did training and development, the partners across the state involved in Triple P, as well as some of the national and international organizations that provide information, guidance, technical support, and additional research assistance. All of these different organizations participated in thinking about where they belonged on this map. In the case of your group problems, you're going to be playing the part of that stakeholder that you've been working from and thinking from their worldview about how they would participate on the map of the things that will affect your particular social determinant of health. In this case, we then looked at the subsystems. So when you think about who needs to be involved in developing strategies, we looked at the learning collaborative that brought information forward that could inform people in the governing roles. When we thought about who could champion those strategies, we looked at the variety of organizations that were represented that have important policy and influencing positions around the state. When we thought about the funding of the Triple P program, we looked at those that provide resource and direct resources, not only from the state to the support level, but also from the support to some of the delivery level organizations. When we think about how do we actually assure those outcomes, we paid particular attention to those in the delivery system who are on the front lines of working with children and families on a regular basis. Think about how this case problem of the Triple P system is similar to or different from the system that you're thinking about for your social determinant of health. What are some priorities that an accountable care community would be responsible and accountable for if you were setting up a governing system to affect the social determinant of health in your particular community? So now we're going to start putting these tools into practice. In this week's live session, you are going to be working as a group to look at the different stakeholders and root definitions each of those different key stakeholders have and how they see the system and their subsystems. As a group, you'll then reflect on that and say, what are some common priorities for our ACC that could be transformational across these various stakeholders and subsystems? In just a moment, I'll refer you back to some documents that can be helpful in this activity. Also, as a group, you're going to use that RACI template and determine who within your system do you see as responsible and accountable for accomplishing these common priorities that are important. You will think for your particular social determinant of health, what your kind of core definition and shared goals are. You'll write a goal at the top in the matrix for each one that you select. And then for each of those, think about who are the stakeholders who would be responsible for carrying out that activity? Who are the stakeholders that would be held accountable for that activity? Who are the stakeholders who have a supportive role and are essential to making sure that the activity is carried out in an effective way? Who are people who have an important consulted role, can help inform, and who needs to be informed in order to make sure your activities are as um, robust and as well received as you want them to be. Between this week's class and next week's class, you'll take what your group has worked on and reflect individually on why the stakeholders that you've placed onto that RACI analysis, why do they need to be there? What's important about their role and why would they have an interest in being part of an accountable care community? I'm going to refer in just a moment to the task force report and other documents that are from the beginning of the term where we talked about what an accountable care community be. I'm going to also show you where some sample memorandums of understanding are and make sure you have access to those as you start thinking about what people would do in creating an accountable care community. One of the documents that was included in the original case problem is a Partnering to Improve Health, a guide to starting an accountable care community. That document was in the original files, and in there, they have some information about why ACCs need to think about how to prioritize the issues or goals they want to address. And they provide some sample criterion that they consider important in reflecting on the priorities. As your group starts to set goals for what its ACC might do, I think it would be helpful for you to refer to this document and consider what they've identified as potential criteria. In addition, they also offer a number of different um, options for how you could prioritize. You could use multi-voting, grids, nominal group technique, Hanlon methods, prioritization matrix. It doesn't matter particularly which one of these use, but as you think about setting priorities, we've asked you to do SMART goals, think about these techniques. We will also be encouraging you results-based accountability, another technique that was covered in 791, so that as you think about the different partners, you think about what their particular goals are and what their metrics might be that would contribute to a population-based outcome. As you think about working across stakeholders for your particular social determinant of health, you want to think about what those priorities are that can be appropriate for your social determinant and also for the community itself, and think about the way in which you can best set those priorities so that various partners can begin to think about the ways in which they can contribute. As you begin thinking about the goals that your group is going to focus on for your ACC, the work of the accountable care community and how you begin to set up a governing structure is covered in the other ACC document, where Chapter 2 focuses on collaborating for better health. And there are a series of different recommendations about the ways in which accountable care communities can be effective in helping build a more equitable and upstream approach to address root causes of health disparities in the community. I hope you will take advantage of that document as well as you prepare for the next few. Finally, The resource that I will post and make available is the webpage at the Public Health Foundation, where they have a variety of different sample partnership agreements. And these are posted, and you can take a look at sample MOUs. This is an agreement where they have outlined what the goals are between a College of Medicine and a health department. They have a set of specific activities that they are planning to be uh, carrying out. Now, this looks like they're going to be um, sharing staff, but there are others where they share services. Let's take a different one, look at this one. Sorry for my computer here, but just a second. This is a MOU to develop an academic health department, talks about what they're striving to do together, what the agreements are that they're going to carry out, what kinds of activities there will be. As you work with your colleagues, you will begin to think through what an MOU will look like. This is a 3-page document. You're going to use something similar to this after you have completed your RACI analysis. I will be posting information on the course website that has the guidelines for how to complete a RACI and details on the instructions. I look forward to seeing you in class this week. If you have questions, feel free to write them down and come to class prepared for us to get after it.